Hello and welcome to the University of Texas at Tyler's International Business Competing in the Global Marketplace for spring of 2017. My name is Melody Simonini, and Mina Azarian, Ivor Isaacson, Natasha Rivers, and Sherry Sams will be guiding you on a journey through Singapore. As a prospective business owner, it's good to know about the environment that you will be residing in order to start your business. But it's also good to know someone in the area who actually has a business. So we are going to review an interview that I completed with Garth Whitehead, the CEO of Production Testers International. That's an oil and gas company based in Singapore. He also owns a company in Vietnam and also one in Hong Kong. He has also expanded and established a foreign direct investment and a farm in Australia. So you'll hear a little bit more about that later in our presentation. So a little bit about Garth. He first arrived in Singapore as a backpacker in 1970, and he ran out of money, so he got a job in the oil and gas field. After 9 months, he ended up moving to London and then returned back to Singapore in 1974. It was at that time, in 1980, that he started his own business. He felt that if he was able to make money for other people, he might as well make it for himself. So that's how it all started. The reason he started in Singapore is because, he said, it has a very entrepreneurial culture. It seems as though all of the people in Singapore are out to better themselves, from street vendors to engineers and bankers. It seemed that everyone there wanted to make things happen. This seemed very important to him, and it was also multinational. So that is how he began his business there. So over the years, he has built up his companies. He has sold to other larger companies. According to Garth, he feels that the Singapore area is a prime location for business, as it's in between major growth areas and is the busiest port of the world most of the time. The airport is super efficient from his perspective, communications are great, and crime is very low. The food is good, the climate is good, and there are lots of cultures in that area and many different races and religions living well together. We can hear from him throughout this presentation. So let's give you a little bit of background and we'll let you figure it out for yourself. Singapore was established in the year 1819 as a British trading colony. Singapore is an island and it is a sovereign city-state. The area of Singapore is 719.1 kilometers or 277.6 square miles. The population of Singapore is 5,610,000 people. The currency used in Singapore is the Singapore dollar.
The political system of Singapore is very similar to the United States. It has a parliament, a cabinet, under the scope of the president. However, the president is mainly ceremonial. It is a unitary dominant party, a parliamentary republic, ensuring that the parties in power will be there for a very distant future, establishing good business practices and laws that aren't subject to change. Because of the political system and climate of Singapore, government effectiveness is well established. Because it is not a very changing government, it is established and usually set in place for a long time, allowing those laws to be established and practiced without being changed. It is very attractive for businesses with the consistency inside of the country at this time and for future businesses to arrive. As you can see by the CPI Corruption Perception Index and also the Rule of Law Index, Singapore has a low corruption and high rule of law. Singapore is very business friendly in that regard, due to the fact that the laws that are in place usually stay in place and also are very strictly enforced. Singapore has set up the Corrupt Practices Investigation Bureau, also known as the CPIB, which is independent from the other government bodies within Singapore, that allows this government agency to investigate and prosecute corruption in the public and private sectors. It also has a zero tolerance for bribery. This makes for a very friendly business environment, very conducive to make sure that each small business and large business can thrive.
Singapore has a highly developed and successful free market economy. It enjoys a remarkably open and corruption-free environment, stable prices, and a per capita GDP higher than that of most developed countries. Singapore enjoys a very low unemployment rate. The economy is heavily dependent on exports such as consumer electronics, information technology products, medical devices, pharmaceuticals, and on its vibrant transportation, business, and financial services sectors. The Singapore economy was impacted by the global financial crisis in 2009. However, it has continued to grow since 2010 on the strength of renewed exports. Growth was slower in 2014 and 2015 as a result of soft demand for exports due to a sluggish global economy and weak growth in Singapore's manufacturing sector. The Singapore government is attempting to restructure the economy by weaning its dependence on foreign labor, addressing weak productivity, and increasing Singaporean wages. Singapore has attracted major investments in pharmaceuticals and medical technology production, such as GlaxoSmithKline, and will continue efforts to strengthen its position as Southeast Asia's leading financial and high-tech hub. Singapore is a member of the now 11-nation Trans-Pacific Partnership negotiations, as well as the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership negotiations that includes 9 other ASEAN members, plus Australia, China, India, Japan, South Korea, and New Zealand. In 2015, Singapore formed with the other ASEAN members the ASEAN Economic Community.
Delighted. I'm resident of Singapore, but I'm back in Australia for annual leave. I'd like to see the farm. Our family trust own the property. We're lucky enough to have Gary take care of everything. He's leasing the property and putting on the automatic milking machines.
Very impressive, the robotic dairy here. But you grew up here, didn't you, Garth? What's your history here?
Yeah, I grew up in Burnie and I spent a lot of time up here in Duns Plains as a young child, and during my youth, my auntie lived here. I was working up here, I worked on the farm. I went overseas when I was about 21. 2 years later, when the farm came up for sale, so I thought I'd buy a little farm. The little farm has sort of grown into a little bit bigger. Now it's pretty substantial.
You yourself have all sorts of different investments, not only in dairy. Where does dairy fit into your investment portfolio?
Originally on this property we were running cattle. The cattle industry was a little bit tough. At that particular time we were unfortunate to lose one of our managers through ill health. That's when Gary surfaced and we started chatting. Gary's a dairy man and it's worked out very well.
The relationships that you've got with Gary Carpenter here in Duns Plains, do you think that this could be a prototype for either yourself or others?
I think it's something that you could expand on, provided you can keep the labour costs within reason. And after viewing the automatic milking machines, I think that's quite possible. It would stimulate more investment into it. So long as you have good management, the actual purchase of the farm and that type of thing, that's feasible. That can be done.
We will now be discussing Singapore's rich and diverse culture. The people of Singapore are free to practice the religion of their choice. While nearly a third are Buddhists, Islam and Taoism come in next in line. Catholics and Protestants make up nearly 18% of the population, and Hindus comprise about 5%. Education is highly emphasized in Singapore, as evidenced by the nation taking top honors in last year's program for international student assessment. The arts are also quite important to Singaporeans. The population of Singapore is comprised of many ethnic groups, primarily those of Chinese and Malay descent. The age distribution consists of mostly young to middle-aged adults. Tropinar's data of Singapore demonstrates a country more focused on the group than the individual. There is also evidence of a strong emphasis on rules and laws. Hofstede's data conveys a high power distance for Singaporeans.
Now let's review technology in Singapore compared to the United States. According to World Data Reports, the United States of America leads Singapore in all areas of technology, in research and development, scientific and technical journal articles, as well as patents granted. As far as the Innovation Index is concerned, the United States leads Singapore over the last 4 years.
Now we will discuss environmental characteristics of Singapore.
Singapore's government is committed to their business development strategies. The national objective is to increase GDP with focuses on developing industry standards, low taxation, friendly policies and laws, and great geographical area for commodity trading. Singapore is an attractive venue for business investors. Rich in history and culture and high standards of living makes it a choice destination for business opportunities. One of the disadvantages is that Singapore is a country, state, and city all in one and functions as a rule-bound culture, and it also limits their domestic market because of their size. The language is quite diverse, making it challenging for locals and expatriates alike. Another threat to Singapore is the rising cost of living. Meanwhile, salaries have stayed neutral. Cost of transportation, fuel costs, and rent with the strengthening Singapore dollar has left challenges for locals and business people. After all is said, Singapore has a lot to offer. From the pictures in this presentation, we hope you can see the beauty within.